Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Go Ballistic. My name is Ben Ramage and I'm here joined by our chief football writer, Robert Grieve. Robert, how are you doing?
Well, morning Ben, morning, a busy day yesterday. A lot going on in Scottish football, a lot going on at Ibrox, but I think we're about to discuss that, aren't we?
I can't think what we could talk about. What we're going to talk about is this. We've actually a brilliant reimagining of a classic headline here. Super Cam goes ballistic. Rangers are atrocious though this time around. Obviously, it's an absolutely seismic result yesterday.
Absolutely.
And Kris Boyd was obviously, he didn't pull any punches in his column today.
No, he did not. We'll be speaking to him shortly. Listen, I'm old enough to remember the original for that newspaper 25 years ago when Celtic were stunned by Inverness Caley Thistle. Yeah, a seismic result and performance from Queen's Park yesterday, and all the attention now on Rangers, what's going to happen next. You've got to imagine there's big decisions to be made. At Ibrox, there's going to be some serious conversations going on at Ibrox right now, because that result for Rangers yesterday is one that could bring the end for Philippe Clement. I don't think there's any doubt about that now.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the reasons why we love the Scottish Cup as well, isn't it? You know, it does throw up results like this, but looking at it from Philippe Clement's sort of standpoint, is this, you know, the final nail in the coffin? There's been moments through the season where he's been fighting, but is this maybe the one that is actually takes over the edge?
We have been here before, let's be honest about it. We've been at points in the season before now when we thought it was the end for Philippe Clement, but there are certain results that just have to mean the end, I think. You know, Rangers losing to Queen's Park, with all due respect to Callum Davidson and his players who were outstanding, they were immense at Ibrox yesterday for 90 minutes. They couldn't have done any better, but at the same time, Rangers should not be losing to Queen's Park in a Scottish Cup tie. Everyone knows that the team has been suffering at points this season. Clearly, the European results have maybe papered over the cracks to a certain extent. But yeah, when a team like Rangers lose to a team like Queen's Park, then there has to be consequences, and I'll be astonished if Philippe Clement manages to see this out. As I say, I think there are conversations going on at Ibrox right now to determine what happens, but for me, I don't think there's any way back for him now.
Yeah, I think that was the only question mark, was whether if you get a new manager in before the European games coming up, that would be the only thing that you could maybe argue, that maybe Clement has kind of got results in Europe, so would that maybe be more unsettling in terms of going into the European games left with a new manager?
I don't think they can be any more unsettled than they are right now, Ben. You know, given this result, given the way the fans are. For me right now, it's as pure and simple as the fact that Rangers don't have the cash to axe Philippe Clement. I think in any other period of time in the club's history, a decision would have been made long ago. Clearly Rangers have been trying to shift things around and get in terms of getting players in. We saw what they were able to do in the January transfer window. In any other period in Rangers history, he'd be gone. The fans have reached the end of their tether, understandably so. The Rangers players yesterday didn't turn up, they didn't perform well. But as Kris Boyd mentioned in his column this morning, he's got a certain degree of sympathy for them. There's guys like James Tavernier, Yanis Hadji, Nico Raskin, who are big players again for Rangers. They were pretty much being shown the door by the manager, and now here they are in the last few months having been brought back into the equation. Listen, they should be performing a lot better, absolutely they should be. Often is the case when results like this happen, that we look at the manager when it's the players who should be taking more responsibility. But for me, this all falls on Philippe Clement right now, and it's up to the Rangers board to make a decision. Time will tell whether they do that, but I think for me, Clement, I find it very, very hard to believe how he can come back from this.
Mm-hmm. We do have to give Queen's Park a lot of credit.
Of course, listen, that goes without saying, Ben. Yeah. Listen, we have to say that we're talking about Rangers right now because of the club they are, but 100%. I mean, Queen's Park were outstanding. Their goalkeeper, all throughout their team, they scored a terrific goal, really well taken, composed finish. Yeah. They rode the luck at times with the penalty. You say rode the luck. The penalty save at the end was incredible. You know, it wasn't lucky. It was an incredible save. So for all that we're talking about Rangers and the situation and predicament they're in, 100% you have to give so much credit to Queen's Park. It was their day, and they'll be talking about that for a long time. I'd love to know what their celebrations were like last night, because they looked pretty good out in the pitch and in the dressing room afterwards.
No, totally. And Callum Davidson obviously has such great history with this cup, so shouldn't write them off maybe.
That's the thing, and he wasn't even in the dugout yesterday at Ibrox. He was sitting in the stand because he was suspended for the game. He was sitting. He said in his post-match interview that he couldn't even watch the final few minutes. He was having to cover his head with his hood, fearing what was going to happen. But what a job he's done. To think that St Johnstone let him go. I know things have turned there in the last few weeks, but a top manager, a top guy. He said last night also he'll be playing squash tonight when the draw's made for the next round. Well, I wonder how he'll be feeling if and when or whatever they get next. But phenomenal from Queen's Park's point of view. I've got a friend of mine who's a Queen's Park fan. He was in the crowd with his son and his daughter, almost in tears.
Right.
The camera actually panned to him after the game, and I'm pretty sure I saw a tear in his eye. He claims not. He claims not, but yeah, for these guys, these fans that have travelled, they travel everywhere to watch their team. At that level, they've obviously, there's been a real growth there in the last couple of seasons at Queen's Park. But what a day these guys will be talking about this forever and a day.
I don't think you could blame him for having a wee tear there.
No, absolutely not. But he's claiming he didn't. He's claiming he didn't cry.
So moving on to the other side of the city, Celtic obviously won 5-0 the day before. Was that the perfect warm-up for them going into the Bayern game, or could they maybe have done with a tougher opponent to maybe get ready for that?
Listen, the game was what it was. I thought Barry Robson's side actually were well organised to a certain extent, but it was a straightforward victory. We're talking about the Rangers game and how they struggled to break down a defensive team. Celtic had no issues whatsoever. The only thing, Maeda obviously scored a hat-trick. He was outstanding in the game. He's suspended for the game against Bayern Munich on Wednesday. That's a big loss, with obviously Kyogo long gone from Celtic now. Maeda has shown that I think he can play through the middle. Adamino will obviously come in to the game on Wednesday. But yeah, Celtic, it was a routine victory. Routine performance, routine victory. Probably everything they wanted from the game, they got it.
That was the one concern with the fans though, wasn't it? That they maybe haven't strengthened enough up front for when players are missing.
Yeah.
So when you've got Maeda gone and Kyogo gone as well.
Absolutely. That was the talking point last week. Absolutely, that Celtic didn't do the business they wanted to do in the January window. They let Kyogo go, albeit he was wanting to go. I think that was the message that Brendan Rodgers was sending out last week after the window closed. That the reason he was allowed to go is because he was so desperate to go. So Celtic have got themselves into a position there where they are light in the centre forward position, but Ida did well against Aston Villa in the last game. I was down in Birmingham, and I was speaking to him last week. Also, there's an interview with him in the paper tomorrow. He's got confidence about him. He's not badly affected by any of the doubts and criticism that's been there. And yeah, he'll be leading the line, and it's a big test for Celtic. Ben, let's not get away from this. Bayern Munich, giants of the German game, European football. It'll be a tough ask for Celtic to win through this tie. Callum McGregor spoke at the weekend, and he was very clear on that if Celtic have any chance to get through over the 2 legs, they have to win at Celtic Park on Wednesday. So time will tell on that one.
Massive, huge game on Wednesday night. Looking elsewhere in the Scottish Cup, Aberdeen won 3-0. Obviously, they haven't been winning too much in the league. Can that help kind of jolt their season? I know it's lower league opposition. But... It
was lower league opposition, but potentially that was, again, if we're talking about upsets, if you were to ask any of us on Friday where the upset maybe would come at the weekend, I don't think many of us would have predicted Ibrox. So I think Pataudry might have been that place, but they dealt with it in a fairly professional manner. And yeah, Jimmy Tilleen will be hoping that's a turning point for them.
Yep, and one more game left in the Scottish Cup tonight.
The biggest game of the weekend. I'm going to Paisley for St Mirren. They play Hearts. They've got a good bit of a history with beating Hearts in Scottish Cup games on the way to some glory down the years, if I can remember correctly. Right. So we'll see what happens in Paisley today. I'm looking forward to that one. It should be a good game.
Yeah, perfect. Right, so we're actually going to hear from Kris Boyd now. So over to Kris.
Good morning, Boydie. I'm just reading your column there in the paper this morning. A hard-hitting column as ever after the terrible result for Rangers yesterday, losing to Queen's Park in the Scottish Cup. You've not held back from your criticism of Philippe Clement. Are you surprised he's still in a job?
No, because I think I've touched on that within the column, and I think the Rangers fans will want to know. Listen, if it's about finance, then it's a cards on the table moment. The fans need to know, because this just can't go on. We always speak about rinse and repeat in terms of managers, but Rangers' results have been the exact same this season. You go and get 2 or 3 good ones, and then all of a sudden you think, okay, Rangers might be back, and it's a positive place. But it doesn't matter how good or bad your season has been up until now, Robert. You cannot lose at home to Queen's Park. That's no disrespect to Callum Davidson, Queen's Park players, or the football club. Rangers cannot lose at home to Queen's Park. I'm sorry. It's just, it doesn't matter. Whatever way we dress it up, whatever way we try and look for excuses, or what, it just cannot happen. I mean, it's the first time.
Rangers created a lot of chances yesterday.
Yeah,
They had
yeah.
a lot of possession. There's a rebuild going on there.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, there is. There's no doubt there's a rebuild going on. We keep hearing about it. We're in February, mate. We're in February. Ange Postecoglou was able to do it at Celtic inside a few weeks. This whole myth that Rangers haven't spent money. It's incredible. I mean, you read the column, you look at the money that has been spent. The big summer signing again yesterday, nowhere to be seen. Bajrami, I thought really poor again. I've touched on it within the column regarding the narrative that Philippe Clement is trying to create here in terms of young players being given a chance. Absolute nonsense. Old Trafford, they were put on the pitch because at the time, it was possibly going to be used as an excuse had Rangers have lost that game. They then performed well, and all of a sudden it's now about giving opportunity to youth players. It's for me, Rangers are going nowhere fast, and it has now reached the stage where if it is about finances, then the Rangers supporters need to know, because they spend their hard-earned cash every single week. To watch performances like that yesterday is no good enough. And you look at, and there'll be Rangers fans out there saying that I'm just not going to go to the game, I'm not going to spend my money. The reality is, in Scotland especially, or when you go back, when I was playing, it might have been 2 or 3 seasons Celtic would be, on top. Then all of a sudden, 2 or 3 seasons Rangers would be on top. The fans didn't want to give up their season tickets, or they wanted to be part of it, because you always feel as if the next season it'll be ours. That was the mindset. Whether you're a Rangers fan or a Celtic fan, even if it's that poor, the next season will be ours. You now look at it, and for Rangers, and the club is operating within that structure still, that fans will know that they don't want to miss out in terms of their season tickets. They don't want to be part of the hospital. They want to be part of the hospitality. And if they give that up, then they're not getting it back because of the waiting list for a long period of time. So Rangers know that, and big clubs throughout the world know that right now. It used to be you could say, well, we're not going to games, we're not doing this, and it's going to hit the club in the pocket. If you don't go to games now, you're just going to miss out. You're not going to get a season ticket for the following season, or you're not going to get hospitality. So in terms of people not turning up, that's not going to happen, because you will just lose your season ticket. You will, they might not turn up, but they've already paid for it. So it's now at the stage where Rangers fans need to know why this is continuing, because all you hear is excuses. Whether it's shots on goal, whether it's possession, nobody cares, mate. Nobody cares. All Rangers want is results. The here and now is all that matters. This whole thing of a rebuild and the Rangers will be better for it and everything, it's irrelevant. It is irrelevant. And any manager, unless kids are exceptional, any manager, and I've got sympathy for them, that they don't want to give youngsters an opportunity, because you listen to a lot of them right now and I want to get youth in the team. But the reality is you need to win games of football. And it's all well, I think when you look at Rangers, it can be difficult to criticise sometimes, because of the club, because of the size of the club, because of the size of the squad. And let's not be kidding, the players are way better than everybody else in Scotland apart from Celtic. So they're going to win games of football. But the inconsistency for Rangers is terrible. I mean, it is really, really bad. And when you look at, they're going to win games of football, which makes it very difficult to criticise. And that's why when things like this happen, it's a crisis, because people can see it. Like you might be able to pull the wool over certain people, whether that's within the club. Some fans might buy into it, but Rangers are progressing nowhere quickly. I mean, are improving. Listen, it's bad, and losing at home to Queen's Park is just the icing on the cake.
It was former Chairman John Bennett, Boydie, who came up with that phrase, we have to stop the rinse and the repeat process. And you can understand at that point where he was coming from. But results like yesterday, are they too big to be ignored?
Robert, see the thing is, and I'll say it again, the rinse and repeat thing has to stop, but it can only stop when you get the right man. If it's not working, then you need to go again. You can't just continue because someone's in a job and you've sacked 2 or 3 managers beforehand, we can't do it again. As I said, if you can see improvement, if you can see progression, then I am all for it, because I totally agree. You can't keep chopping and changing managers. But you need to do it to get the right person. And right now, Rangers don't have the right person. And that the proof's in the pudding. Rangers' results are they're so erratic. I mean, 1 minute you think, okay, yeah, decent performance. But you see, even if you look at, and I know this is very difficult for people to understand, that you go back to Tannadice. Because Rangers win the game, it's black and white. You win it. But if you take the first half, Rangers go a goal down. Dundee United then hit the post as well. That could have changed. Yes, you got through in Europe. Union St. Gilloise are pushing towards the end. That would have changed as well. And I know you can't look at it and say, well, if this happens, if that happens, because then Philippe Clement could easily turn around and say, well, if we take our chances, then we win the games of football. But you're only highlighting where Rangers got results. It could have been a lot different. It could have been a lot different for Rangers. And as I said, I can totally understand if there is progression, you can see signs of improvement, but there's none. Which then takes me back to yesterday. If you're going to give youth a chance, the first sign of danger or the first sign of trouble, Bailey Rice is whipped off, replaced by an experienced player in Raskin. Move further up the field, when you need a goal, Yanis Hadji's arguably been Rangers, or one of Rangers' most creative players in that battling behind. Obviously, Cherny's the main one, but Yanis Hadji has contributed a lot to Rangers since he's came back into the fold after being told he would never play in Philippe Clement's team. But he gets taken off to be replaced by Yilmaz, to then say that, yeah, but Yilmaz has played there before. Yeah, he has. But guess what? It was in Europe. It was against teams where you felt as if, do you know what? It's maybe be better for Rangers to be secure on that left-hand side. If Jeffrey goes forward, Yilmaz can fill in. It's Queen's Park at home. Seriously, it's so bad for Rangers right now. And as I said, for me, you look at results, I just don't see how any manager can come back for this.
You touched on it in the column this morning as well, Boyd, the mixed messages. James Tavernier at the start of the season looked as though he was potentially on his way out of the club. You mentioned Hadji there, who couldn't get in the squad for circumstances. Nico Raskin, another player who was in and out of squads and found himself behind Conor Barron at one stage. Yet he's now one of the main men. You've touched on this in the column, and I think it's a very pertinent point that Clement has sent out so many mixed messages when it comes to the players. Is that a factor when he's now having to turn on these guys and hope that he gets performances out of them when he's under pressure?
Robert, I've touched on it regarding, usually when results happen like this, you can point to the players and point fingers at them and blame them. And listen, they're not immune.
You've got a degree of sympathy for them, haven't you?
I have got a degree of sympathy for them. I have, because, James Tavernier was third choice Rangers right back at the start of the season. I mean, Casemiro and Sterling were ahead of him. There's no getting away from that. They were ahead of him. Or Philippe Clement thought they were ahead of him. James Tavernier has forced his way back in, but where does that leave your captain? Where does that leave him? You then look at people like Leon Balogun. Yeah, they were still there, but was he part of Rangers' plans going forward when he's speaking about a rebuild at 36, 37-year-old? Was he really going to be part of it? But he's come in and done okay. You then look to your midfield area. Raskin was so far out the picture. Then all of a sudden he found himself back in the team. Now he's the main man. Yanis Hadji, and Philippe Clement's own words, I don't see him playing in my team as a number 10. I don't see him playing in my team. Now he plays every week. Cyril Dessers, your top goal scorer, consistently been linked with moves away. Those rumours were never shut down by the manager to say, no, I want my main striker here. Any other club that wants their main striker at the football club would turn around and say, I don't want him going anywhere. He's part of the plans going forward, blah, blah, blah. But that doesn't happen. You then like Bajrami was signed as a big summer signing. He's in and out all the time now as well. There is the inconsistency of team selection, and I'll go. I mean, I've not looked at the numbers, but I wouldn't be surprised if you start to look at Philippe Clement's half-time substitutions. Those substitutions are not a case of a big team taking players off to rest them because of the schedule. That is a big team that's scrambling to get a result most of the time when he's making so many half-time substitutions because his selection at the start has not been good enough. And then he has to go to his bench to make it better in the second half. Hence the reason, going back to it, the Dundee United game that I covered just before Christmas, when Yanis Hadji found himself back in the fold, Rangers were that bad in the first half. There was a couple of changes at half-time and players came on and had such an impact in that game. Yanis Hadji being one of them. And since then, he's not looked back. So, as I said, as a player, I think you'd be asking questions. Where am I? I think there's a lack of trust from the manager to the players and the players to the manager. I really do. And as I said, if you can see patterns of play, if you can see a structure in place that's going to allow Rangers to flourish in the future, then carry on. But I don't see any of it. I mean, listen, the comparisons would be Ange Postecoglou when he came into Celtic. Celtic were losing games of football. Everybody was laughing at him. But he stuck to his principles and it turned. But you could see even from day one, there was a structure in place. I mean, what's Rangers? By the way, and I'm not against going long all the time, but if it is a case where you're going long and asking teams to defend, then surely you've got to have midfield runners to get up in front of up and support the striker. Rangers launch it long and don't get players in support of a striker. There's no connection with any, and because there is some good players there, things will happen. I mean, when you think of Cyril Dessers' touch out there at Old Trafford and finish, great touch and finish. You think of some of the goals that Rangers have scored, Dundee United being one, Cyril Dessers, great movement, but you don't see it enough. Sometimes you'll get it, and sometimes, more often than not, there is no connection from even the forward players. You're hoping, could Cherny step inside and do something? Yeah. But there's no connection with your strikers. There's no connection with the midfielders. And as I said, for me, if there was a style of play or something you could grip onto and say, yeah, it's going forward and it's going to be better in the future, then carry on. But that's not the case.
As right now, Boyd, as things stand, Philippe Clement is clearly the focus the fans are looking at. There's a new chairman, there's a new chief executive there, Patrick Stewart. Niels Coppin is there. There's been a change in his role at the club slightly in the last few months. At what point did people start looking at them?
I think there already are. I mean, people will say, I mean, I'm always moaning and having a go, but I mean, I've spoken about Niels Coppin before. What did he do to move up the ladder? What was there where you could say, yeah, he deserves to move up the ladder at Rangers Football Club? What did he do? I mean, everybody's looking at it now. Iggaman's come in and he's done okay for a few weeks, and people are saying, oh yeah, the recruitment has been absolutely terrible. Terrible. Bajrami, £3.5 million. I mean, he's really struggling right now. There's other players where, I mean, people like Jefty, you're going to get, it's so up and down. I just look at the whole. When you look at Rangers recruitment, you have to get more right than wrong because of the market that you're shopping in, and it's the opposite. I mean, there's so many players struggling right now, and I get that. Listen, I've been there where you're struggling, results are not going the way that you want them to go. You're trying maybe that little bit harder, and things are not happening. But you then look to a leader, and sometimes, listen, I'm not. I don't know what goes on behind closed doors. But sometimes you just need to be told the truth. And this whole thing of we've created so many chances, but we've missed them. But sometimes you just need a bollocking. You just need to go through somebody. You do. And I don't see it. It's just excuse after excuse. And as you said there, now looking at the what's going on, the attention is going to turn to the board. And there's going to be questions asked. As I said, it's an opportunity now to come out and explain, listen, we might not be able to do anything because of finances, then the Rangers fans deserve to know that. If that's what it is, Rangers fans deserve to know. If it's not, then why is Philippe Clement continuing with his role? Because there is no signs of this is going to improve. Mate, we're not even in the middle of February. The season's over. I mean, I'm surprised.
There's still Europa League, Boydie. There's still Europa League.
Yeah.
That's maybe something that the board are clinging on to.
I'm surprised that, you know, that excuse wasn't left. That excuse didn't come out Philippe Clement's mouth either. That, you know, he wanted to get knocked out the Scottish Cup to concentrate fully on the Europa League. I said, it wouldn't surprise me if that was something he was thinking about. Excuse after excuse. It's not good enough. You can speak at the Europa League, and it's easy to you know, I think when you take that into consideration, it's probably papering over the cracks. Rangers are 13 points behind Celtic, having beaten them. 13 points behind Celtic. It's the middle of February. In fact, we're not even the middle of February. 13 points behind, lost the League Cup final, out the Scottish Cup to Queen's Park at home. It just can't get any worse. I mean, where do Rangers go for you? And this whole thing of...
Well, that was going to be my next question, because if Philippe Clement was to resign this afternoon, which he's not going to do clearly, or the board were to make a decision and fire him, what's next for Rangers? Where should they go next? Because as much as the club are struggling right now, it's still a very attractive job. It's still a huge club. You'd imagine there'll be a lot of managers out there who would fancy it, but where should they go? What would be the next move for the Rangers board if you were part of that?
Robert, I don't know, because that's why I'm saying to you, I am asking the question myself as well, because if Rangers need to keep a hold of Philippe Clement because of finances, then the fans deserve to know. Because right now, it's just all up in the air. People are saying he needs to go, but if you can't afford to get rid of him, then he stays in his position. Whatever it is, the fans need to know. The Rangers fans, they need to be able to dissect this and process the between now and at least the summer of where this football club is going. And as I said, the attention's now going to turn to the board, because this whole root and branch of the football club, it'll be probably hundreds of thousands of pounds spent as well. That guess what? See, come the end of it, I wouldn't be surprised if the line is we need to find finances from somewhere. I can tell you that. Anybody can tell you. But you're going to spend an absolute fortune to do this root and branch of the football club. Listen, Rangers, it's here and now. You need to win games of football. What is it, 3 trophies out of the last possible 43? Yeah. It's not good enough. I mean, in fact, it's actually embarrassing. It is embarrassing. And you take the whole package, and you look at it. If you could see a club going in the right direction on and off it, then you're fine. But that's not the case.
The thing is, though, if Rangers win the next couple of games, they'll be in a position again where maybe the pressure's off Philippe Clement. The narrative will change slightly, and maybe the pressure will...
Yeah, but Robert, that's the issue.
Is that what we're talking about when you say...
That's one of the problems. It's one of the problems, though, when you take a big club, especially in Scotland. The reality is, you're never going to go on a run. You're never going to go on a run of 5-6 games without a victory. That then there's huge amount of pressure on the manager that you're left with no choice but to sack him. But right now, you only can look at, there's been patches where Rangers have won games of football, there's been patches where Rangers have lost games of football. What is not up for debate? Rangers' away form has been terrible. Rangers are 13 points behind Celtic. They've lost the League Cup. They are out the Scottish Cup already, albeit, yes, they've progressed in Europe. Well done, fantastic achievement, I must add. But there's no signs that this is going to get any better. As I said, you'll get 4 or 5 weeks where it's really good or it's good, and nobody really asks questions. You then have 1 or 2 games where everything goes to plot and there's a crisis mode. But the reality of Rangers right now, a crisis is only 90 minutes away because of how bad it is. And I just can't see how Philippe Clement can survive this. The fans have had enough. You know, if you're turning up to the stadium, and you're watching football that's attractive and you know, it makes you want to come back. I mean, the majority of Rangers fans will believe in that stadium absolutely raging, fuming. It's no good. It's no good. There's no progression. You can say, you know, within those 3-4 weeks where it's good for Rangers, Philippe Clement will come out and he'll tell, oh, it's getting better. It's you know, we're on the right tracks and we're doing this, we're doing. But you're losing track of where this actually is, and go back to it again. 13 points behind Celtic, out the Scottish Cup, out the League Cup. Away form's absolutely terrible. I just don't see how he can survive this.
Well, you're fuming yourself, Boyd, by the sounds of it, and the fact that you're talking about stables rather than stadiums tells me you're spending far too much on those hobbies.
That's just because he cost me a fortune, mate. Horses.
Let's turn our attention to the other side of the city. Celtic against Bayern Munich on Wednesday. A huge night for them in the Champions League. Do you give them much hope?
I do. I mean, I think when you look at when you look at Bayern Munich, and listen, there's no doubt they're an excellent team. They've got, you know, players in the forward area: Sané, Coleman, Musiala, Harry Kane, Elise. They've got players that will cause Celtic problems. But defensively, you know, I think Celtic can get at them. If Celtic can stay in the tie at Celtic Park, which I think they will this week, you've got to say, Maeda, people might criticise him, and listen, when he's out wide, he's crossing, and there might be some things at his game where you think should be a lot better. But I tell you what, Robert, what he brings to that team is outstanding. I mean, his work rate. You look, it's 95 minutes in the clock, and he's running, charging down defenders, slide tackling. That's commitment.
Getting himself sent off, Boyd. Getting himself sent off.
Yeah, I mean, listen, he obviously had, you know, made a stupid decision to kick out, and he's missed 2 huge games now. But if Celtic can stay in that tie, with him coming back next week, they will cause Bayern Munich problems. They can in the counter-attack. But at the flip side of that, you've got to look and say, well, it was what Borussia Dortmund done to Celtic. I think Celtic have improved since then. They've learned from their mistakes. Bayern Munich are ahead of Borussia Dortmund in the table, and a better team than Borussia Dortmund. So a lot of people about there saying we need to perform at a level. You do. You need a little bit of luck as well along the way. But Celtic have got players that can cause Bayern Munich problems. Of course, I mean, the reality is you would fancy Bayern Munich to you know, go through the tie. But I don't think this is a tie where you'll be looking back in years gone by and thinking absolutely no chance. Celtic have got a chance in this because of, you know, the pace they've got at the top end of the pitch. Like with Kuhn and Jota coming in as well. Obviously, Ida will play through the middle on during this week. But you know, if they can stay in this tie and get Maeda back next week, Celtic have got a chance.
Well, I'm sure you wish Celtic well, Boydie, on Wednesday night. It's been a difficult week for Rangers. I'm not sure there'll be many Rangers fans that will be hoping that comes off. But
it'd be good if they turned up and got some coefficient points, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, we wish Celtic well on Wednesday.
No, we don't.
Thanks for your time, Boydie.